Hey guys, it's Merrick, and I've got another gameplay commentary for you guys today. We're yet again on Planetside 2, this time on VS, using the Betelgeuse. As many of you know, the Beetle is the Araxium VS LMG and is the straight upgrade to the Orion. It has a slightly smaller magazine size if you just dump the magazine, but it runs on a heat mechanic, so if you space it out, you can actually avoid reloading, although you still need to have actual downtime between your fights. Rest of my loadout is relatively standard for me. Like I said before, I seem to be very partial to survivalists, saving me from having to burn extra medkits, even more so now that I don't have the membership nanite boost, and there's been an absurd amount of vehicles recently, so I don't seem to be able to go anywhere without flak armor. I'm running the laser sight on the Beetle. I think it's pretty good for CQC, and the heat mechanic can give you a few extra bullets back, where you don't have to commit to a full reload, which can save you in a fight or two, and before anybody asks, no, I'm not running soft point, I never do, that's high velocity. So, jumping into the gameplay, we wind up at Lowland Command Post, where I run around the first base, can't seem to find anything, and then as I head down Skinny, I find one person. Just as I'm thinking about redeploying, it seems like there's a big push into the building, and I run back up and try to deal with that. I do manage to cross into 50 successfully, but looking at all the blue dots in there, this is actually a bad position, and they could very easily potentially push out and just overrun us. So I hold my position here and try to just pick people off, as they seem to stall in the big room here and just want to use this to hold us off and grind. There's way too many of them for me to push in, and we don't have enough population built up here to do that ourselves, so I just sit here and try to bleed them out. I kill these guys that push out, deny their reses, and then try to peek in every time I get a little bit of an opportunity to slowly second these guys out, try to deny the reses, and make sure we can reclaim some of the room. I am able to catch that medic as he comes up to res these guys, and we do manage to get a foothold back in this room as we slowly push forward with more purple trickling in and begin to push them back out of the building. I take a position at the top of the stairs, getting ready to use a good defensive position, but I immediately see a max come in the front door, so I back up to a slightly more defensible position. Purple does push up and actually seems to take that max out and resecure the area, so I head somewhere else. That somewhere else takes us to Briggs Laboratories. I initially thought I was late to the fight or got baited because I managed to run around the whole compound without seeing anybody, but as I circle back onto point, I do finally see some red dots. I'm able to pick one off from across the way, and as I push up to try to put some pressure on the door, I get taken out from inside, and by the time I respawn, they have retaken the point, and we are completely trying to retake. So the fight did show up, just not when I was expecting it. Similarly, I push into this building, trying to get a good position. I immediately see 8 people when I peek through the doorway. I take cover, but there's no way for me to reasonably get back out. I try to make a jump just to break some headshot lines, but I get taken out, not having enough health, and I have to run it back. When I get back, they're already pushing the building right in front of our spawn room. I push out the side door to try to get some of those pickoffs, but there's too many of them out there, so I have to jump back to the main server. I respond to the minimap thinking they're going to come in the side room, but they push in the front door. So I swing out, try to get some kills, do not manage to consistently hit the headshots, which allow me to take out this whole group of people, and I just fall over. I run it back, attempting again, and do a very similar thing of just falling over. Third time, I was lost in a discussion with chat about dragons and something about games relating to dragons recently, and I just no-brain walk across and die for free. Seeing that I'm just not paying attention, I refocused myself, pushed back out of spawn, went up to the second floor, and came down the side stairway to get a better angle on this front room and try to clear it out slowly. I'm able to pick up a few of them at the bottom of the staircase, and I'm focusing way too hard because I actually thought that more time passed between that last kill and my next engagement, so I gas up my weapon and have to completely fall back to the top of the stairs. As I'm coming back down the stairs, a resonate goes off, a lot of people stand up at once. I try to clear out as much as I can, but doing all that means I cannot get away from the grenade, and I just fall over. Running it back, I head back to the second floor for that superior angle, but it seems like they're coming in from the balcony and the second floor, so I try to do what I can to weed that out. When they fall back from that location, I decide to push up to the stairs. They come back from this roof right then, and I realize that they're not going to let me ignore them, so I push up to the roof to get this guy cleared out. I don't see him immediately, meaning he's behind one of the barriers. He gets in a fight with somebody else, and I just follow him around as he tanks a lot more than I expected, but while I'm in the middle of taking him out, a light assault comes over the side, and I fall over. Running back, I run into the same surprisingly durable gentleman, but we do manage to get him again, and we continue back onto point, where it seems like we've regained most of the area of point. From there, we wind up pushing out, and they are trickling in from some outside sunders with tank support, and I take position on a rock, not able to push up any farther because there's just too many angles to get shot from, so I wind up clearing out what they have trying to push us. I'm taking mid to long range shots, so I'm trying to stay on top of my burst fire, but I'm also keeping a close eye on my minimap, because that's the only thing that's going to give me a warning if somebody pushes around the other side of this rock. I see a dude with a scout rifle up there, and I'm not able to take him out, unfortunately. He's at a far enough away position that I can't really win the fight if he's shooting at me, but I'm still going to try because I'm fucking stupid. So I just work around trying to pick other people off until I see him repeak, and figuring I have a better chance of killing him than most others, I do take the shot. But between being terrible and vehicles causing screen shake, I lose the fight, but it wasn't a good fight to take in the first place. Running back, I get to point to see a few people running around point, but it looks like this is mostly cleared out, so I just make sure that I run around and give it a once over because there's not a whole lot of other fights to go to. I deem this place clear, begin to redeploy, and then run into somebody I wasn't expecting on the staircase, lose the trade, and then wind up finally moving to somewhere else. Following the fights, we wind up moving to Mal Watchtower, where there's a red point hold and not enough purple to break it. So I try to take some longer range angles and see if I can't make shots, but the TR up there have a good setup with nice sets of cover, so they just have headshot angles, and these are not necessarily the best fights to be taking. That does nothing to dissuade me, and I get shot in the face. I res, run around to the side, trying to see if I can't get another shot at that angle, and yet again, having not learned my lesson, I get shot in the face again. Unfortunately, by the time I get back, they have finished capping the point, but there's also a purple push that did manage to breach, so I only wind up getting here in time to pick up a few people off of res, and then having to go somewhere else. Not exactly the fight I was looking for, but it's the fight that we have, unfortunately. I get the participation trophy of being here and getting a few cleanups, and then head over to Mao Tech Plant. I show up to a well-placed router with lots of people here to defend it, and it looks like this actually was quite a good fight. I just didn't make it here until it was pretty much over. So I take the few people that are coming up the escalators and get the pickoffs there. Then I see on the minimap there's a bunch of people that are pushing in that are definitely not up on the balcony, so I drop down to the garage and try to thin that out. I gas my gun out because I am desperate for kills and not hitting a single fucking thing, and I have to fall back. By the time I reload and push back into the garage, it is flipped so none more of them can push in, and it's pretty much cleared out, so I just get shot, take that as a warning, leave, and then head somewhere else to try to follow the flow of this fight. That takes us to the Palisade, where there's already a large purple entrenched position. I try to fit in where I can and get people picked off, but despite eating a rocket to the forehead, there's not a whole lot of people peeking. I see some red dots on the minimap, and I head downstairs, swing outside, and able to pick those up. But I immediately step on a flash grenade, detonating it, and then by the time it clears, I'm in a terrible, undefendable position. They run in, and I just fall over. So I move on, and that takes me to Seabed Listening Post, which appears at first glance to be a 50-50, but when I get here, it is a spawn camp situation with air-to-ground support. That doesn't stop me from being stupid, however, so I try to push up and pick off what I can, and while I do get a few, I just wind up wasting a few lives running out and trying to get anything done because there's not many other fights, especially not ones that actually allow me to spawn at them. So we keep up what we can here, and eventually there's enough purple that generate behind us to actually get a solid push, but unfortunate outcome of that is this goes from what could have been potentially a decent fight to suddenly an overpop sweep that clears the point. It's really hard to find an even extended fight anymore, and this is kind of just a perfect example of that. I get out of position after that kill and have to shuffle to try to stay alive, but I can't because they have a good hold, and by the time I respawn, not even 10 seconds later, there's enough population that they are completely getting swept off point in what is no longer actually an enjoyable fight. So I quickly redeploy out and head over to the next thing that looks like it's actually a fight, which based on enemy population seems to be Briggs Laboratories yet again. I try to push up the point and see that there's some people holding the forward server room, so I try to take a position to kill them as they push in, since it seems like there's actually not enough purple here to actually hold that point. I saw on the minimap that there were people outside of this doorway, and I was waiting for them to peek. Once they decide not to peek, I give it a little bit of time and try to push up to catch them off guard. But no sooner do I do that than a light assault pushes past the angle, forcing me to turn and chase him, and people follow up behind him with a good double to triple peek. I just die for free, and when I run back, I do a very similar thing of trying to take an angle and kill these guys as they peek out. This is what I was trying to do the first time, they just refused to actually peek me until they all pushed at once. I got away with being greedy by being able to push up into the middle of the room and then just out DPS people, relying on Assimilate and Adrenaline Shield to keep me alive, so I jump up onto the console here thinking that I can do the same thing, but I completely overextend, eventually do get taken out for having absolutely no cover, but I do get rezzed. I see that there's a lot of purple pop built up here, so I push out and immediately swing right, clearing out the people around the doorway. I continue pushing, however, and there's way too many red, so I get caught at off angles and die for free. I go to see if there's any other fight, kind of expecting this one to be over, but there aren't really any, so I wind up coming back to Briggs Laboratories. We have the main point, but there's a lot of population building up outside of the door as they try to push their way back in, so the fight isn't completely over, but this isn't exactly what I would call a quality engagement, where you can actually move around and get in gunfights. We're just hoping people peek into us and try to take bad fights that are generally not going to favor them anyway, and I can't push up because there's so many angles that I have to cover that they actually would not favor me. So neither side is exactly incentivized to go take fights right now, and we're going to use this as an opportunity to finally bring this session to a close. There is more fighting to happen in the background, but this session is going to wrap up with 68 kills in 26 minutes. There were actually a number of fairly quality and enjoyable fights tonight, but what wound up happening was one side or the other would get way too much population, and as soon as the fight was wiped once, it would completely end just outright with no ability to respawn or pick up the fight, and would have to move to a different compound, which takes time and slows down just the gameplay flow in general. On my part, I think I played a little bit too aggressively at times. I was distracted talking to chat because we had a handful of different topics going on in the background. Sometimes I just completely got focused on that rather than playing the game, especially when there was some downtime between the fights that it just allowed me to get lost in that. I've been playing a bunch of other shooters recently, so my burst fire needs a little bit of work because it was not exactly up to par. I also, because I'm used to other shooters, was not keeping a close track of my heat mechanic, so there were times that I gassed out when I shouldn't have and didn't really need to, and could have actually gotten a lot more done because of that. Then we also have the similar standard unfortunate things that I do stupid, like making myself take fights when I don't have shields, or overextending rather than playing for the longer, drawn-out farming type of plays. I just force the fight now because my ADHD demands action, and I don't let myself have enough time to think it through, and I just make terrible decisions. I'm sure there's more that I did wrong, or more that I could have done better, that you'll be aware of if you've watched some other previous videos. Anyway, as always, let me know what you do like, let me know what you don't like, let me know what you think so I can improve my videos moving forwards. Thank you guys for your continued support, and I'll see you guys next time.